So, George, first I wanted to ask you, how did this film come together?
Well, the short story, The Adjustment Team, was brought to me by one of the producers on the project, Michael Hackett. And that's basically a story about a guy who sees behind the curtain and sees that the world is being sort of controlled by the agents of fate. So fate isn't an abstract concept, it's personified in the story, which I thought was a pretty fascinating idea. And he also said, well, what if we did it as a love story? So it's a guy fighting fate for the woman he loves. And I was fascinated by that kind of combination of genres, and I just sort of had an instantaneous reaction of, this is something I can do. And optioned the short story, spent a bunch of years just kind of thinking about it and scribbling notes on the side. And then eventually I wrote a script that wasn't quite there, but I showed basically the tone and stuff that I wanted to do, and I brought it to Matt, and he expressed a kind of general interest. We had some conversations about it, and ultimately I rewrote it for him. He said he wanted to do it, and it was easy to get somebody to say yes to do it.
That's what I wanted to ask you. How important was Matt's involvement in the project?
Well, without having a real movie star, one of the very few big movie stars, international movie stars, saying that he was willing to play the lead role in the movie, there's no way that a studio would have let a first-time director direct something of this scope and scale. So it was essential, and but a real pleasure since we knew each other already and we already had a working relationship.
But you'd never obviously directed him before, so what is he like as an actor?
He's about as easy as they come from what I've seen. I've only been in the director's chair once, but I've spent a lot of time on sets on all the movies that I wrote. I was around for most of their shooting. Yeah, Matt's great. He contributes to making the character better. Will give you ideas in other places in the script, and it's very easy to sort of give a simple direction and have him figure out how to make that work, and then you see a change in the performance.
Matt plays David Norris. Without giving away too much, who is David Norris, and how does his life change when he meets Elise?
He's an aspiring senator who's already a congressman in New York, and he's by far the front runner. He's a young guy, very, very, very popular, great speaker, but he's got a kind of a streak in him that is immature, and he does something that makes him lose the Senate race at the beginning of the movie in a very bad and embarrassing way. He's about to give his concession speech, and he's in the bathroom sort of preparing alone in the hotel by himself, and he meets Emily Blunt, and it is a kind of love at first sight, and their conversation, which is just 4 or 5 minute conversation, changes what he does when he goes out to give his commencement speech. Or rather, in the middle of his commencement speech, he remembers that meeting, and he sort of takes it, and sorry, not commencement speech, his concession speech. He takes it in another direction, and he does something which should kill his political career, but has the opposite effect.
Can you talk about how Emily got into the movie, and because I believe casting Elise took you some time?
Right. I was really intent on finding a professional dancer or an actress who had a lot of dance experience. Couldn't find anybody who was the right match. And very late in the process, Emily and I met, and she said, I can't dance at all, but I'll work really hard to fake it. That's what we do as actors. And I was just really impressed by other work she'd done and by that meeting, and we screen tested her, and the chemistry was there right away from the first 3 or 4 lines of their conversation in the scene we were filming, so it was really easy to cast her. It was a no-brainer kind of.
What is she like on set?
She's great. I mean, I was blessed with all my cast in terms of one of the biggest challenges for me as a director was with a movie of this scope and ambition in this city. There just weren't enough days to do all the movement we needed. So I needed actors who could, come in and really nail their takes in 3, 4 takes. She's amazing at that.
You surround both Matt and Emily with an incredibly supporting cast. I mean, you have John, you have Anthony, Terrence. Can you talk a bit about getting the supporting cast, which are very important in this movie?
Sure. Well, John was first. I actually had run into John at a restaurant about a year before I did the movie, and the movie wasn't greenlit yet. And I said, I've got this script, and I feel like, because at that point I had some conversations with Matt. I knew Matt was somewhat interested. I said, I feel like it might get made, and I want to practice as a director. Would you do me a favor and take a day and shoot a scene with me? Which he did, and he was amazing, and there was kind of no question in my mind that I really wanted him to do the part. So he was first. Then Anthony Mackie I saw in another movie he did in Hurt Locker, and really was impressed by his performance, looked at some of his other work, and he came in and met with me. And even though I hadn't seen anything in his other work that was identical to this part, I just felt like he could do an amazing job, which he did. And then Terrence Stamp, who wouldn't want to work with Terrence? And also, there's very few people who can play the role of Thompson, kind of the most heavy in the movie. When everybody else has failed at being able to keep David Norris on course, who do you call in? Well, Terrence Stamp.
New York is another character in the movie, right?
New York is very important to the movie, to its conception, as well as to how we actually shot it. I wanted a city that was vertical. I wanted an adjustment bureau that was 80, 90, 100 stories high, an adjustment bureau headquarters to kind of convey the notion of the hierarchy in the Adjustment Bureau. I wanted to be able to show the incredible beauty in the city and sort of hint visually that if the Adjustment Bureau controlled everything, the world would be more perfect and more beautiful. But I also needed a place where I could show complete chaos, so that when Matt starts bursting out of the constraints of the plan, that I can represent that visually. And this is a city with ample chaos in it.
This movie talks about, are we predetermined, or how important is fate in our lives versus free will? What is your opinion?
I personally think they're intertwined, that there are many things that constrain us. There are many things that, if you think of the Adjustment Bureau metaphorically, not as literal fate and not in some religious sense, everyone is constrained by the circumstances of their birth, the country they're born in, the neighborhood they're born in, the chance circumstances that happen to them that push them towards a certain career or meeting a certain person. And those are the sort of fate elements in your life. But if you just let that control you, if you just kind of sit back and let life wash over you, I feel like you're not getting the full experience of being a human being. So we all know what it's like to choose a different direction and see how that turns out. And I think for me it's both.
Even in the film has a science fiction element to it. Actually, it's a film that plays around with different genres without really being boxed in any of them. Nevertheless, it has a very realistic look and feel to it. How important was your crew, and especially your DP, in helping you achieve that look?
From John Toll was my DP, two Academy Awards and probably 4 or 5 nominations. From our earliest meetings, before I'd even picked him as the DP, I talked about this need to kind of bind the movie together with one look, and that be realistic. And really, aside from the visuals and the music, you don't have that many tools to bind a movie together that is multiple genres. So it was extremely important, and his level of experience and us being on the same page about what we were trying to achieve was crucial to. I think that really works in the movie.
You had already a lot of experience in filmmaking, but this is your first job as a director. Have you enjoyed it, and is it an experience you would like to repeat?
Definitely want to repeat it. Loved it.
What do you enjoy about directing?
Well, for one thing, just following an idea from the beginning, from inception to fruition, is something you don't get to do if you're a screenwriter. And because the things that I write about are things that are important to me, and that I put a lot of work and effort into, it's great to be able to take that all the way through, so that some version of what's in my head comes out on the screen.
What would you like people to feel, to say, or to, I don't know, just experience when they see your movie? What would be something you would like to hear?
Well, I'd like people to say they had a great time and they were thrilled and they were captivated by the romance, all those things that you want a sort of mainstream movie to make people feel. I want people to feel like they got their money's worth when they came to the movie, first and foremost. But what I would also like is for people to leave the theater and have the sense that there was more going on in this movie than there normally is in a Hollywood movie, and that the ideas and questions that it raises are ideas and questions that they can discuss with the other people who saw the movie, their spouse, their kids, their friends. So I hope it spawns conversations after the fact.